Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan here today. Welcome back to the channel. And I have kind of an idea going on in my head about something that I want to share with you guys with regards to compatibility and astrology. So we're talking about more of like romantic compatibility in this case. I haven't actually made notes or anything. It's on my head, so I'm just gonna go right out and tell you. So this is the first part of astrology and compatibility secrets. This is a basic thing, and this is something that works in reality as well as in theory, but is often overlooked, but is really, really important when it comes to compatibility. So what we're talking about here today are some important houses within your natal chart when it comes to compatibility. So the reason why houses are really important in compatibility is because the houses represent the way that you see the world and the way that you perceive things that happen in the world through a certain lens. Therefore, there are certain houses, okay, within your natal chart that we would look to see what is your perspective of a good committed relationship. So these houses specifically are the 2nd house, the 5th house, the 7th house, the 9th house, and the 11th house. Now the reason why I mentioned the 2nd house, the 5th house, and the 11th house, these are fixed houses in your chart. The 8th house is also fixed, but the 8th house is it's an extreme house, so I don't want to include it. It's really personal and subjective to the person who has it. It's not going to be positive or really contribute to a long-term relationship like these other fixed houses will. Because Scorpio rules the 8th house, and Scorpio is extreme, and Scorpio is all about transformation. So if you're a very enlightened person, maybe you can look to your 8th house. But if you're not, then I would consider that, you know, the 2nd, the 5th, and the 11th. Yeah, so the 2nd house is ruled by Taurus, the 5th house is ruled by Leo, which is also a fixed sign, and the 11th house is ruled by Aquarius, which is also a fixed sign. So fixed signs have this element of sticking with something long term. So that's why these 3 houses are the committed houses, okay? You want to see first the sign that is ruling each of these houses and the sign that is partially occupying these houses, because people are very complex and they don't just see a certain area of life through one color lens, right? They can see it through 2. So I'm gonna show you a random natal chart right here. So you can see that this person, okay, so if we look at their 2nd house, right, which is one of those houses that I mentioned, they actually have it ruled by Aries and partially occupied by Taurus. So this means that this person is going to view the world, is going to view the areas of life regarding the 2nd house through the lens of Aries and Taurus. So why do we look at the 2nd house when it comes to compatibility? The 2nd house is ruled by Taurus, and it is ruled by Venus, right? Because Taurus rules Venus, which means that it is a relationship house in a sense that this is the house where you feel that you can commit to someone long term. It has a lot to do with your values. So whatever is filtered into this house, what sign is there in this house, is going to show what your values are. And the planets there and things like that, but we're not really talking about the planets today. We'll just look at the house. So yeah, this is what your values are. So you kind of want to have this be compatible with the person that you're engaged in a relationship with, because if you have different values from someone, it's kind of hard. And this house also has a lot to do with money. So, you know, when you're in a relationship with someone, you got to be able to work through the finances together. And also this is a sensual house. It has a lot to do with sensuality, which ultimately leads to sexuality. So But more importantly, it is a committed house. So that was the second house. Now, when we look at the fifth house has a lot to do with love and romance. So this person's got their fifth house ruled by Pisces and partially occupied by Leo. So they're gonna view romance through the lens of Cancer and Leo. This is the house where it's what you think is physically attractive to you. These are the qualities of something that you consider physically attractive. This is what you would, how you would act like when you go on a date, or when you are being romantic, when you are pursuing an object of your affection, when you are... It also has a lot to do with sex as well, this house, but it's a fun kind of sex. It's that's what it is. So that's why you want to see the qualities of your fifth house. The seventh house. Of course, the seventh house. The seventh house is the house of committed partnerships. It is the house of partnerships in general. And this person's got their seventh house ruled by Virgo and partially occupied by Libra. So they're gonna view partnerships in marriage through the lens of Virgo and Libra. So with this house, it is like the coming together of a yin and a yang. The other piece of the jigsaw puzzle that fits with you. It's your complementary opposite. It's an opposite that is highly complementary to you. That's what I'm trying to say. So it has this sense of pulling you towards these qualities that is ruling and occupying this house. So these qualities pull you there because they give you a sense that if you can move towards these qualities, you are going to be a whole person, basically. That's why it's a marriage house. It's very committed. It's ruled by Libra and the planet Venus. So it wants, when you find that yin to your yang, why would you go anywhere else? It's like that one thing that you've been looking for all your life. That's the seventh house. Okay, the ninth house. Now, not a lot of people are gonna say that the ninth house is important in compatibility, but it really is. So this person has their ninth house ruled by Scorpio and partially occupied by Sagittarius. So, oh, by the way, I'm using the equal house system. Sorry, I forgot to mention. I'm using the equal house system in this video. That's what I use now to do natal chart readings and things, because I feel like I connect with it more. Yeah. So anyways, this person, the ninth house has a lot to do with your beliefs. So this person has the beliefs of a Scorpio and a Sagittarius. So why is this important? Because if you're in a relationship with someone who does not have the same beliefs as you, that's really hard. If you view marriage differently, if you have a different belief about children, different beliefs about marriage, different beliefs about, you know, where you should be heading in life, different beliefs about relationships, how are you going to, it's really hard. You can't change your beliefs for someone else, right? That's why the ninth house is really important. It's not a committed or a binding placement, but if you know the qualities of this house, you know, it's like makes things so easy. It gives a sense of inspiration between you and someone else. The 11th house, like I mentioned, this is the fixed house. It is ruled by the sign of Aquarius. So this is the house of friendship. This is why it's important because, okay, so this person has their 11th house ruled by Capricorn and then partially ruled by Aquarius. So this is the way that this person is going to view friendships. And in relationships, yes, romance is important, attraction is important, but like 80% of the time, you and your partner are just friends. That's what it is in a relationship. And friendship allows for this understanding, allows you to be yourself, So the 11th house is the house that allows you to be yourself. Acceptance. And I would consider this house also like kind of like an unconditional love kind of a placement even. So that's why the 11th house is really important for long-term committed partnerships, because you gotta be friends as well as lovers. So those are the important houses. So the way that this works is that you can know if someone is going to be compatible with you based on their sun sign for this video. Of course, there are other layers to compatibility, but just in terms of houses, right? You can know this by seeing which of the houses that person's sun is gonna fall into in your natal chart. For example, this person's second house, right? So their second house is ruled by Aries and Taurus. So they would kind of be looking for someone who's got their sun in mid-Aries degree to late Aries degree and early Taurus degrees. And how do you know which degrees someone's sun is going to be in? By looking at their birth date. So if they're born, so Aries, the birth date of Aries, and you can probably just check this online, or maybe I'll leave a link in the description box below to say which birth dates correspond with which sun sign, maybe. But anyway, so Aries birthdays usually range from around the 20th of March to 20th of April. That would be considered the Aries season. So this person would kind of want to be dating someone who's like born maybe somewhere in April. Maybe the end of March to like April, mid-April. That would make that person's sun fall into their second house, which is a good place to have the sun falling into. Or they could date someone who's born like late April, right? Because that means the person would have their sun in Taurus, and that Taurus sun would fall in this person's second house. Does that make sense? But if they start dating someone who's born like mid-May, their Taurus sun would then fall into their third house, which is not one of those committed houses that we were talking about earlier. That's how you can tell if somebody, like how you would view somebody who comes into your life, if that person, how that person would make you feel, and whether that feeling is going to be one of commitment or not. So when it comes to the other planets, it can get tricky because you'll not know, right, what planets they're going to have unless you draw up their natal chart. And you can actually figure out someone's Venus, Mars, Mercury, and Jupiter. So we want to look at those planets just from their birth date and birth year. You don't even need the birth time to know which sign that's going to be in. The moon is a little tricky. The moon can depend a little bit on the time. So if you want to check their Venus, their Mars, Mercury, and Jupiter, you just have to know their birth year and their birth date, right? And then you can do the same thing, and then you will get the degrees of those planets. And then with those degrees, you can go back, look at your chart, and see where the planets are falling into. So like if someone's Venus is like, let's say that person's Venus is in 15 degrees of Cancer. That means that person's Venus is gonna fall in the shark person's 5th house. Or let's say the potential partner's Venus is in 1 degrees Libra. When you overlay it here, you're gonna have that person's Venus falling into the chart person's 7th house, because 1 degrees Libra will be in their 7th house. So that person's Venus will be in the chart person's 7th house, which is great. So you can kind of see now how we would look at that. So one last thing is that if you are using the equal house system, like I do, the degrees of your ascendant will be the beginning of each of the houses. So like this person's got their ascendant in 9 degrees Pisces. So their second house is going to be 9 degrees Aries, the third house is going to be starting at 9 degrees Taurus, the fourth house will be starting at 9 degrees Gemini, and so on and so forth. So that's how you can kind of figure out, based on the degrees, what your potential partner's planets, which houses are going to fall into. Okay guys, I hope that made some sense and kind of was useful for you when you are figuring out compatibility and things like that. You know, this is just kind of like the first step or one of the steps to figuring out how you would view a person who comes into your life, or how you would, as in terms of whether you would want to be committed or not, want to be romantic or not, and things like that. This is just one step. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'm thinking about making more of these types of compatibility secret videos, because compatibility is a bit of a secret and it's not an easy thing to be figuring out. But yeah, I think it would be fun to do. I don't know what else to say. That's it, guys. Questions, leave them in the comments below. If you also want to share what signs are kind of co-ruling each of those committed houses, leave them in the comments below. And yes, I will see you again soon in the next video. Bye!